Russia's president has asked Washington to present hard evidence about Russian citizens meddling in the U.S. presidential election in 2016. Vladimir Putin said American authorities should send their official request to Russia's general prosecutor. He reiterated that the procedure has to be conducted through official channels and not through yelling and hollering in the U.S. Congress. Putin added that Moscow cannot take action against the Russians accused of interfering in the U.S. election if they don't break Russian laws.
In all the hooting and hollering in my media, in the progressive media, that's what I'm going to call it. I'm labeling it now, progressive media. I haven't heard one thing mentioned. There's one thing that I haven't heard mentioned, and that is that to a certain extent, at least Facebook got paid some money. So, you know, in all the, you know, we can debate whether Russians and Germans and Africans and Asians have a right, you know, to weigh in with their opinion. But in my opinion, Russia didn't weigh in. All they did was trolled for money. And that's perfectly legal. It's perfectly legal for me to make up fake Facebook accounts with fake names and try to attract attention, try and get people to join my groups and all kinds of stuff, and then troll to them, and then try to sell them something. Last time I checked, there's no law against that. I mean, even when I was studying contract law and corporations and stuff, there's such thing as a silent partner. So you can have somebody else fronting for you with using their name, or even an invisible partner, so that you're invisible, but you're projecting your image through, you know, in these days and age, you could do it through a robot. You know, you could have or you could hire somebody just to use their face, you know, and their voice. I don't think that there's anything illegal about doing business that way. And what I was saying was it benefits Americans because you know, these, probably Google, I mean, probably Amazon, probably you know, YouTube and Facebook and maybe even Twitter, you know, it supports their ads. It supports, and some of them, according to this, $1.5 million a month or something was spent. Well, if it was spent in the United States, it was, you know, going to American companies. And if it was spent on Russians, then those Russians were able to make money. You know, so we're ignoring any of the positives to dwell on the negatives, of which I don't think there are any, because you know, making memes and running groups and stuff like that, the only reason there would be an attraction to those groups is because there are Americans who are attracted to those groups and those areas of the internet, which means they're just finding a place. And quite honestly, you know, if there weren't Americans, because there are, for every Russian out there who's interested in American politics, there's 10,000 Americans, 1 million Americans, you know, interested. So for every Russian who absolutely sees Hillary for what she is and decides to make a Facebook group and promote ending her little tirade that she's been on, her little rampage through American politics and Democratic leadership council, you know, whether it's Obama or her or Bill Clinton or whoever. There's I mean, I started it, so I know. You know, I started it. I had the group, Hillary Clinton, and I made up the name Shillery. I had to think of a good name for her, and it's rampant, it's viral, and yes, I claim it because I started it. You know, I even Googled it several times to see if there was anybody else using it, and a number of other terms. I'm very creative in that way. So, and I hate to sound like Ronnie Rump, but in this case, it's very true. And I coined the phrase "feel the burn." I was in the biggest Bernie Sanders for President 2016, I believe, and it had a Hispanic sounding naming guy like Alvarado or somebody. He was the guy who, I guess, started it, and it had over 250,000 members when he put up a post saying, and this is before, you know, this is like back in 2015, and I asked him to track it down, but he said it was just too hard to go that far back. So he put up a post saying suggestions for Bernie slogans, and of course I came up with that one first, and I was there when he posted it, so I was like right there on top of it. And of course I came up with "feel the burn." So, and there were a couple others I suggested, like the one they ended up with, but I didn't really like that, because you know why? It sounded too much like Obama's slogan, you know, "change you can believe in" or something. And I think they came up with something like "change you can trust," and you know, a lot of other people either saw mine or saw others and repeated them, or maybe came up with them on their own, because that's the way it works. A good idea isn't, I mean, while you can claim to be first, like I can claim to be, I think I was the very first Democratic anti-Shillery group on Facebook. You know, I mean, and I came up with the idea for a very good reason. I was in several groups. I think one of them was called, what was it, Liberal America, or something like that. Big groups. But a whole bunch of, I hate to say it, but really, really virulent, antagonistic lesbians, Clinton supporters in the groups, and they kept, you know, they were sitting there waiting 24/7. They had people sitting there waiting for anybody who would support Bernie, and boy, they would come down on you like a ton of bricks. It would just rain fire from these assholes who are all gone now, by the way, and those groups are gone because they got, you know, they lost most of their supporters to Bernie. So, you know, we were getting kicked out of groups and getting kicked out of any kind of forum or anything by these DLC Democrats, these conservative Democrats who all they cared about was their lesbianism, really was most of what I was saying, okay? And so I started Shillery, you know, the scourge of the Democratic Party. And now it was very hard to find people to join in the beginning. But boy, as soon as we picked up Bernie, because we did pick up Bernie, we tried to pick up Warren, and then we ended up picking up Bernie, because Warren is too much of a DLC Democrat. I hate to say that, because I like everything she has to say, except for the fact that she's a, you know, an ex-Oklahoma housewife who used to flip houses. That's a really bad place to come from, especially if you're going to be an advocate for consumers. So